Laxey Wheel once pumped water from a nearby mine. Today it turns for the tourist cine camera, something that's kept especially busy with such beautiful scenery to be recorded and remembered. And though the hundreds of boats that once fished for herring are now only a few, Manx kippers, smoked here, are still a very special dish. Tonight we come to Peel, not as tourists, but to join some of the people of this lovely place who've gathered at Kirk German Church to share their songs of praise. They begin by singing, "O worship the King, all glorious above." This hill is said to contain soil from every parish in the Isle of Man, symbolising that it's the centre not only of the island itself, but also of its whole tradition and its whole spirit. When the Vikings conquered the island, they brought with them their own system of government. It was a system based upon a series of meetings between the Lord and his freemen. At these meetings, new laws would be passed and old laws reviewed. And these meetings were always held in the Tynwald, or Parliament Field. 1,000 years ago, that same system of government came to the Isle of Man, and it all began here, on Tynwald Hill. They still come here, but only once a year on Midsummer Day, for the ceremony of the whole thing. Jean Thornton Dewsbury wrote a pageant to celebrate the Manx millennium.
I was asked to write this pageant for the Girl Guides of the Isle of Man, of whom we have about 1,000, to celebrate Millennium Year. I think the first thing I wanted to do with it was to portray the very rich history that we have here in the island. So the first part consists of historical scenes. And a part of those is the heritage of the Christian faith, which has been handed down to us from generation to generation, from the time of the early Celtic fathers, who braved these seas to bring the gospel to us. Now, these young people for whom I wrote the pageant are a part of tomorrow's world. And in many ways, I feel it's a very sick world. There's so much starvation, so many are homeless, so many are suffering, illiterate, and then there are such great rifts and divisions between peoples and nations. But I believe very strongly that it's much better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. And I'm hoping that these young people, as they grow up, will here in the Isle of Man and wherever they go in the world, and Manx people have always been great travellers, they're found all over the world, that they will, each one of them, light a candle of faith and hope and love. And so the pageant ends with an act of dedication to the service of God and of his world. I believe also very strongly that an ordinary person, given the power of God and dedicated to that, to him and to his world, can do extraordinary things. And I think that no one of us is either too young or even too old for this. And I, in my retirement, have again made that dedication, because, after all, I believe that there is really no retirement from God's service. And the hymn I've chosen is the one which starts, "Thou didst leave thy throne and thy kingly crown."
Ivor Crow breeds some of the world's rarest sheep.
Manx Lochlan sheep, it's simply Manx brown sheep. My main interest really in them is that it's something of the Isle of Man, peculiar to the Isle of Man. The primary things we're looking for are colour, which must be brown. There must be not less than 4 horns per animal. Now, 4 horns are not necessarily long projecting horns, which are formidable armament, but the characteristics must be there, because very often in the females, they're not much more than studs or buttons, really, but the 4 studs must be there. The sheep themselves are indigenous to the Isle of Man, along with the Manx cat. are the only two relics we have of indigenous domestic animals in the Isle of Man. Up to a few years ago, we had the Manx horse, the Manx pig, and Manx cattle. Now, those, unfortunately, have all gone by the board, but we are left with the sheep and the cats. And my hope is that I shall be able to help to keep the breed going and not to improve it. Well, my ideal hymn would be For the Beauty of the Earth. It embraces those things to which I subscribe, the happiness of the earth and what we see. I mean, after all, this Isle of Man, as it is at the moment, is beautiful. And as a Manx Islander, I think we're under a very, very definite obligation to preserve, maintain, and look after it to the best of our ability.
Headmaster Alan Lynch is a part-time member of the Royal Observer Corps.
The Corps started way back in 1925 when it was purely to deal with aircraft, tracking aircraft crossing the country. Shortly after the war, we changed over to a nuclear role where we did half and half. Our basic role is to receive nuclear information from outside, monitor it, and then send it on to our headquarters where it's all correlated.
But that's not going to help anybody much, because if there's a bomb, we've all had it, haven't we?
But this is a common fallacy. Nuclear warfare, nuclear bombs, terrible things. They will kill, unfortunately, thousands of people, but there will be thousands, many more thousands of people who will be left and will need some sort of assistance and help. These people have got to be got out of areas of high radioactivity, and it's only through organizations like us that we can pinpoint where these danger areas are and where the safe areas are. 090. The badge is an Elizabethan soldier in the days of the Armada warning everybody about the coming of the Armada. The motto says, forewarned is forearmed. A very good Christian ethic, I would think.
How do you mean?
Well, for this life, forewarned, everything we know in this life is warning us and preparing us for what's to come in the next life. That's how I take it.
08, clear. Spot size, 0.
You've chosen the Manx Fisherman's Evening Hymn. What is that?
Well, as a young boy, it's the hymn of the Manx fishermen. They're going to sea and they're praying that God will look kindly upon them, that they'll have their catch and they'll get home safely.